Night. It is 6:31 on my watch. We have this meeting in the Village Hall as well as on Zoom. The Zoom link is top of the agenda. With that, we have a quorum. The agenda was properly posted, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, then, we have public appearances. This is public's opportunity to speak on any subject. We just ask that you share your name, your address, your municipality, and hold your comments no more than 3 minutes in case we have a lot of folks who would like to speak. And with that, we do have some wish to speak forms that were submitted, so we'll get started with those and then see if anybody else wants to jump in. Starting off with Abby McDowell. Abby, are you online? Yes, there you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is Abby. I am the homeowner at 208 Heather Drive. The offer to purchase land for the future Ridge Lift Station was approved at tonight's Utility Commission meeting. During the meeting, the Director of Public Works mentioned environmental due diligence. What does this entail and how is it being funded? From my understanding, there is no developer offer at this time. The building plans have been temporarily tabled as well. Given that the project is still uncertain, why is the village allocating time and resources to a project that has yet to be confirmed? To me, it appears that our village departments are rushing to approve projects like this one without adequate interdepartmental communication. Was the utility board aware that the plans for the lift station have been tabled before they approved the land purchase? Are other committees being kept updated on the status of projects, or do they only learn about them when they receive the latest agenda for their meetings? Additionally, a neighbor received a call from Alliant Energy about construction on their property to support the new development. Why are we using Alliant's time and resources for a project that is still uncertain? Until a solution is found for the Taylor Street Weldbridge Highway Inn intersection, or until a secondary access road is added for the Arrowwood neighborhood, the only spending that should be occurring is using the funds needed to fix the existing Trillium lift station. All other projects should be on hold, given their uncertain status. Thank you.
Thanks, Abby. Next, Pamela Hansen. Pamela? Oh, there you are. Please. When you get up there, there's a little person with a couple things that looks like he's speaking or she's speaking. Just push that button, please, so that. Which button? It's the one that looks like somebody talking. There you go. Perfect.
Okay. My name is Pamela Hansen. I live at 233 Taylor Street. I received a call from Alliant Energy about a week ago asking for my permission to put, I'm not sure, a transformer, a lift station, something on my property that was going to be 12 feet by something feet. And they said this was for the new development that was going in. I said, I believe that has not been approved yet, so why are you doing this? And she backpedaled and said, well, it's not for the new development, it's just for the people who already live there. When we had the meeting with the developer, they said there was going to be a traffic study done. When will it be done, and how will you disseminate that information to everyone? Because few residents got the info about the meeting with the developer in the first place. And these are great concerns that the neighborhood has about the transparency of this committee about this project. You're not doing a very good job, and we would like some answers.
Thanks, Pamela. Next, wish to speak, Nick Yankis. Hopefully I got that right, Nick. Maybe not. Okay, yes, thank you.
This is on still. All right.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nick Yuknes. I live at 245 Heather Drive, and I have a background in environmental science. I'm a professional wetland scientist, and I'm a consultant. And in a professional setting, I've worked for developers on occasion, so I have a general understanding of what is often required for larger development projects, such as the proposed Lakewood development off of West Ridge Road there that has been mentioned previously. I have an interest in this project because I live very close to the proposed development. So I think some questions that I've heard a lot of from neighbors and myself as well, thinking of this project, include things like, what studies or other due diligence reviews does the developer need to complete in order to get approval from the village for this development? For example, the village requiring a traffic study for the proposed development before approval. It sounds like that mentioned that will be done. And if so, what criteria do the results of the study need to satisfy in order to get approval from the village? From discussions with a neighbor, I understand that when this had been proposed in prior years, the project was not allowed to continue because of traffic concerns and a lack of an additional connection to Cottage Grove Road. So I guess what is different this time around? Other concerns I've heard include, but are not limited to, some environmental concerns. As a wetland scientist, as an environmental scientist, this kind of strikes home. Impacts on wetlands, waterways, wildlife, cultural resource reviews. I know for a fact from my professional background on these studies and reviews, these will be needed in order to secure a stormwater permit through the Wisconsin DNR whenever, if ever, this project were to move forward. But I am unclear about their need before approval from the village. Associated with these concerns, a wetland delineation, cultural resources phase 1 survey, threatened and endangered species review are generally required. Some other issues that were mentioned include noise and smell of the lift station, speeding concerns on Taylor. How will the village plan to communicate how these concerns have been mitigated or resolved? And to what extent will these studies or due diligence reviews be made public for review by nearby residents? If made available, will the public be given the opportunity to review and comment before the village makes a decision? I understand this portion of the meeting is not intended to be a two-way conversation, to have these questions answered, so I took the liberty of sending them via email before this meeting to the Director of Planning and Development, Mr. Aaron Ruth, and I look forward to your response at your convenience. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Nick. Mark Spouse, is that Mark?
I'm here this evening to speak against the Heyday project. I've actually been to both Heyday facilities. They're nothing like what's going to be built here. There's a community, they're ranch-style townhomes in the other facilities, both in Oak Creek and in Sun Prairie. I actually talked with the groundskeeper and the director of maintenance yesterday up there, and quite frankly, if we were to put something in like that, it would benefit the community, but it's on a 40-acre parcel, and it would be outstanding for people that were looking to downsize, retire. What we're putting up now, the people that would be going into it would not be middlers. They would be people that can't do stairs, don't want to do stairs, they're afraid to do stairs, they're looking for ranch-style homes. So it's being marketed as something that people would come in, they would downsize, they'd moved into it, the elderly, the people over 55, those of us like with bad knees, we try to avoid places with stairs. The Planning Commission's top priority when evaluating any development should be to ensure it does no harm to the community. It's good in the medical community and it should be good here in this village. Every zoning change, particularly for high-density multi-unit developments that require M12 zoning, must be carefully assessed. All it means is you're slamming 20 pounds of potatoes in a 10-pound bag, but you're doing it with people and the places that they live. Zoning must be carefully assessed. This includes conducting a comprehensive traffic impact study. Strand and Associates said that one would not be needed for the Heyday project. I disagree. This includes conducting comprehensive public safety impact studies covering police, volunteer fire, and EMS, and evaluating the potential effects on property values and residents' quality of life. MR2 zoning allows up to 12 units per acre and 8 units per building as a conditional use, which is the highest residential density permitted in this village. Keep in mind that's not as much as you can put in you can get ordinance variances that potentially can be approved to even make it an even more dense community. Currently, our rental market is oversaturated. Authentics has 28 vacant units. They're offering free rent through May right now because they're so desperate to get people in. The same people that built Authentics are the same group that build the Heyday Group's buildings. The difference, we have apartments at Authentics. They're gonna look similar to what Heyday would be if they came in. And keep in mind, I have nothing against Heyday. What I'm talking about here is what's good for our community. 28 units at Authentics. Glen Grove has 16 openings at the end of this month. Grace Coffee Building has 17 available units. That's 3 of the largest facilities for rental units in our community, and we're talking about we need affordable housing, we need more housing, we need more housing. We have 61 units in those 3 buildings that are not filled, and they're struggling to fill today. But yet now we're considering a Heyday project with another 114 units. The Planning Commission, village staff, and village board of trustees must learn the consequences of past decisions, including the strain that increased multi-unit housing is already placed on public safety departments. As more high-density developments have been approved, the demand of police and fire services continue to rise, stretching our resources thin and consuming more of our taxpayer dollars every time they go out. Village leadership must recognize the warning signs before it's too late, including the daily need for a police presence on the north side of the village where many of the multi-unit complexes are located. Law enforcement is already being pulled in multiple directions, and adding to this burden with more multi-unit rental properties without proper planning is reckless. We must stop compounding an already growing problem, such as the increased false alarms originating at these multi-unit rental complexes that burden we're blessed to have volunteer firefighters in this community. These calls waste valuable resources and time, diverting emergency responders from actual crises. The big problem is we have a volunteer fire department, so when they get a false alarm at 3 o'clock, everybody comes in, they go, and it's a false alarm. They have to be up just like we do the next day, 5, 6 o'clock to go to work. It's not fair, it's not right. So if we're gonna continue to do this, we need to put consequences in for the people that are pulling false alarms, and it needs to go back to the developers. The village must acknowledge the reality of our current housing market and course correct before the damage is irreversible. Before we see further oversaturation of rental units that drive down home values, increase vacancy rates, and disrupt the fabric of our community. Most importantly, the Planning Commission and Village Board serve the tax-paying property owners. Homeowners are what drives this community, and their investments must be protected. Saturating the market with rentals threaten property values, neighborhood stability, and the character of our village. The facts are clear. The project is not unnecessary, it's harmful. Moving forward with it would undermine property values, burden taxpayers, strain public safety, and weaken the fabric of our community. The Planning Commission must put residents first, reject this project, and stand firm in protecting Cottage Grove's future. Again, this is nothing against the Heyday Company. The projects that they have in Sun Prairie and Oak Creek are an asset to those communities. With what's being proposed here, it would not be an asset to our village, and we deserve better. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. We had one other form filled out, didn't wish to speak. This is from Chris Stoa. Wishes to voice his opinion against the new police station and improving that plan. So, anybody else on Zoom or in the room that wish to speak? All right. Don't see anybody raising their hand. Okay. All right, then we'll move on to discuss and consider our meeting minutes from a Plan Commission meeting held on January 8th. Any questions, comments?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Fred.
Second.
Thank you, Troy. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? You may abstain. Motion carries. Next, then, we move to discuss and consider a request from CR Devco, Heyday, for the approval of a precise implementation plan for a 114-unit townhouse project on parcel 0711-082-8670-1 located on the northeast corner of West Cottage Grove and Bust Road. I'm assuming the applicants here are in
They're attending online because of
the,
the
yeah,
weather.
yeah, I mean, yeah. So we'll let them get started.
Aaron, while they're getting together, when was the last time Heyday was here presenting? Do we remember? Was it?
I believe last March.
It was about a year, right? It was a while.
I was on spring break at the time. So.
Okay. Thanks.
Here.
All right, we can hear you, so.
So I'm sorry, I thought staff was gonna, there's gonna be staff was gonna read a report or something like that before we started.
Typically we do it after, but, you know, we can, we like to give you the first shot at things, but if you're not ready, then we can start with Aaron and Josh.
Yeah, that'd be great, thank you.
Okay. Aaron, you want to go through your memo?
Yeah, so when Josh and Ryan are ready, they can kind of walk through what some of the differences are between this and the GDP that had been approved before. It's a much smaller project than what was approved in the GDP. That was 164 units. This is going to be 114. So there's two different approvals that are on the agenda being requested tonight. One for the precise implementation plan. That's the second stage of the PUD process. As Alex brought up, they were here about a year ago for the general development plan. There's also a CSM on the agenda, which would split up the lots into the residential lot, a commercial lot, and an outlot for stormwater. As far as the precise implementation plan, we recommend approval with a series of conditions. The first one is documenting some of the reasons why this is being done as a PUD as opposed to a standard zoning district, basically related to the amount of green space on the lot, the number of units in each building, and the number of total units on the residential parcel. Second one, we'd recommend that the developer include a small tot lot playground as an amenity for residents. The third condition, we're repeating the conditions from the GDP related to the library site. Obviously, there's a referendum on the ballot in April that may shift the library to a different location, but since this is getting approved or getting considered for approval tonight, and the Friends still own that site, we want to make sure that the access conditions from that previous approval are still in place. We'd like to ask the applicant to provide an addressing plan that meets our ordinances that can be reviewed by the village, the fire department, and EMS. We'll also want to see the address numbers physically on both the front and rear of the building, since most of the emergency services will be arriving from the back. The internal streets are private streets, but we'll want those street signs to be the same size and legibility as any public street sign in the village. We'd ask the developer to consider using retaining walls on the commercial parcel just to help maximize the developable area on that site. Number 6, just a reminder that park fees will be due, both park improvement fees and the fee in lieu of parkland dedication. Likewise, number 7, just a reminder on the sewer and water impact fees. 8, the driveway relocation for the adjacent commercial property that's there now, the chiropractor. That relocation should be coordinated with both the property owner and the tenant businesses to ensure that access is maintained throughout construction and just verifying that the cost of that relocation will be the responsibility of Heyday. We'll have the applicant verify that the site is annexed into the Madison Met Sewer District area. Any fees related to that will be due by the applicant. There's some monument signage in the submittal that'll require separate sign permits prior to installation. And then just a reminder that in the future, when a commercial building comes forward for the commercial site, that'll be a separate site plan review process for that property. As far as the CSM, we'll also need a formal request to vacate the portion of Fundamental Way that's being vacated. Some of it remains through the cul-de-sac, but everything north of there is being vacated in the CSM. We'll want to make sure that request for vacation is approved prior to the CSM being recorded. And Josh, I don't know if I'm going to go through your comments.
Yeah, I can speak to some of the kind of, I feel like the larger points maybe of all of our comments. Like a lot of the engineering comments, a lot of these are like detail-oriented comments and small comments that just we need some clarification or revisions to the overall drawings and the PIP before they're finalized. So just some of the bigger overall thoughts. Traffic impact analysis, and it was stated in here that a full one was not anticipated. The reason for that is we've had some conversations with the developer and the engineer through some of their development of their plans, and you could do a full TIA for the site. It's residential, so when it's residential in this nature, there isn't as many vehicles as you might assume that there would be if it was commercial or other uses. The trips are a lot less. They're showing right turn lanes into the development. We had a long discussion about the safety and the need for left turn bays in, and whether those would be warranted would be shown in a traffic impact analysis. In conversations with the developer and knowing what's already there that we're trying to serve with the dental, chiropractor, the future development site that's still a parcel that is owned by the library today, the developer and we all agreed, and the engineer, that the left turn bays make the most sense now. So they can go through full TIA. It's probably going to show the same exact results. They're going to spend a bunch of money on that, but they're already willing to implement some of those things that are going to be needed regardless. That's not shown in the drawings, but it's a comment in our comments in our letter. Another big thing that they are working on that you don't see in the drawings now is a connection to Shady Grove. So at the Signal Bus Road and Cottage Grove Road, there'll be a crossing for pedestrians on that multi-use path, and push buttons installed so that you can cross into the Shady Grove development. This site will have Fundamental Way that will go into a cul-de-sac that will be, publicly owned. The rest of it, like Aaron said, would be private roads. The utilities, though, on the sewer and water side, we have water main running through here that is 12-inch that can feed future capacity to the west. Same for the sewer is running along the site, on the south side of the site and the west side of the site to serve more to the west and to the north at a later date. And then all the sewer that runs through, even the private streets in the site, will be maintained by the village. And we'll have easements for those, and the reason for that is just to control the looping in the facilities as they go through. The laterals and stuff, there's some comments on that of just where we position valves and laterals to make sure that we understand who owns what and how to maintain it in the future. We have a handful of sidewalk questions in here and just some connectivity throughout the site. Those are things that I think we can talk to the developer on and get it so that the circulation seems to be appropriate on site. There's some spot elevation type stuff in here, but nothing too big. It should be noted that this application is also in Dane County's hands to review stormwater and erosion control, so they may have comments coming back on top of our comments. As far as stormwater overall, we talked a little bit about trying to connect all of the stormwater pipes at the far south end of this. If you're familiar with, there's a large culvert, box culvert that goes under Cottage Grove Road, and we're trying to kind of get everything to kind of come together at that one spot. And their site engineers know that, and it's something that will be worked out as final plans are developed. We talked a little bit about site exterior lighting. We're calling for lighting to be shown on Fundamental Way because it will be a public road, and that would be separate from their private site. And then just a little bit more information on their fixture types, dark sky compliance, just to make sure we have all the right information. One larger thing on the stormwater too is there's offsite water coming into these basins. So from the library site into the northeast a little bit, there's water that comes down through an existing drainage way. That will go into these basins instead of kind of bypassing around it and going through that culvert. And the basins would probably function better with it not going around there. So we're just saying, can you consider trying to separate the two? There may be a cost component to that. That's more to be discussed between the developer and us as we go through. It works the way it is. It's just on a maintenance side and the basin side of working better. It'd be nice to have them separated if they could. I don't think there's any other big things. If anybody has any specific questions on the engineering side, there's quite a few more comments, but like I said, they're mostly kind of final design comments as they move on through their design.
Any questions for Josh or Aaron from commission members?
I guess I had a question from Josh's report. You talked about the overhead utility pole at Fundamental Way. Are the utilities not going to be buried in this stretch then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's utilities along, along Cottage Grove Road there, overhead power, and probably maybe there's some telecommunication. I don't know what else is on those poles, but right where Fundamental Way's coming in, there is a pole right on kind of one of those corners. So they'll have to relocate and move some stuff around there. Yeah.
Okay.
The developer and the developer engineer are working with the private utilities on that piece of it.
A lot of our development we've done, we've had the utilities buried through part of that. So that's not something we.
Yeah, we've taken a look at that. In TIF projects, it's something that we can require as sort of like a negotiations, like with the Authentics, that they buried the power lines there because that was a TIF or TID project, so we were able to utilize TIF funds for it. After reviewing, what we can require of developers, we've decided that that can't be a condition to impose upon them to install the utilities underground or the electric utilities underground.
Okay, thank you.
They'll be underground the new stuff will be underground in their developments, but the existing stuff.
Along Cottage Grove Road.
Right, Rick, the existing stuff would be
The existing
a-
electric lines, we can't require that they bury those.
Yeah.
And then I had a question about the sidewalks. You had a lot of talk about sidewalks and connectivity.
Yeah.
So there is the building that kind of faces the stormwater basin. And the sidewalk goes, then there's the sidewalk that comes from the cul-de-sac, kind of into their internal driveway.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell. Is that one of the connections that you're hoping to make?
Yeah,
there, or is that-
there was a handful of other ones that we were trying to position on site, so you could get from public infrastructure into the site and vice versa out at a different area, yeah. There was one thing, you brought up the basins, and there's one thing I didn't note, but it's something that we'll probably always comment on, and it's more of a village position for the stormwater basins. The construction drawings indicate, there's gonna be a wet pond there, right? There's gonna be a dry pond and a wet pond as part of that whole system, two separate ponds. There's residential right along the wet pond side of it. It's just something to consider. Some communities are installing fences around those wet ponds for a variety of reasons. We're just stating that you should consider the thought of a fence next to residential that close, so.
Yeah, that's something we kind of touched on in some other pond areas and with a item that was at Public Works, talking about the bench that came up. If we need to do signage or something to, just start from there and talk about fences or how we keep folks off of an area that's not, potentially not safe.
Right, yeah. That's probably a larger discussion for a lot of your ponds, right?
Right, yeah, I live next to one too, so.
Yeah, I know you do.
Then my other question, I guess, goes to Aaron, and maybe the development team can weigh in. Kind of the exterior materials used, especially on the buildings, like right on the frontage, since it is, the gateway to Cottage Grove. It's our main corridor. If you considered some like stone veneer products or something to make those, really the kind of aesthetic we want as you're coming into town. I know that that does add costs, but I think those additions would be, make this kind of a longstanding kind of traditional looking entryway into our community. So I would like to see some stone veneer or, some kind of stone products, particularly on the units facing our main corridor.
Yeah, excuse me, this is Ryan from Heyday. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, previously we discussed those 4 buildings that are facing BV, adding stone to those. So my partner could bring up some renderings, but we do have variations of the elevations that incorporate stone in the base of the building towards the ends. And so we're certainly open to doing that. And that was something we discussed previously, so we would not be against that. Obviously, putting stone on all the buildings can be cost prohibitive and make the deal more difficult, but certainly the buildings that are facing high traffic areas, we would be more than willing to evaluate what that looks like and putting them on the building.
Yeah, I think that would be a great addition. Unless I look through my notes on other questions, I think that covers everything I had for now.
Exciting. Anything else, Ryan, from you guys, from your perspective? You want to talk about the look and what you're marketing these towards?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. And I apologize that we couldn't be there due to the weather. We like to be in person to answer any and all questions. But to that, I believe it was March when we were in front of this body, this commission. And since that time and coming back to you, we put a lot of thought into this. And Aaron outlined some of that. I mean, number one, we were approved for a much higher number at 161. We've reduced that to 114 to try to be thoughtful in terms of adding green space to the project, considering the stormwater detention, impervious surfaces, reducing the burden on those things. Additionally, there's some discussion on apartments in the area and vacancy and things of that nature. So I want to be clear that first and foremost, while these are rentals, they are single family rentals. They are new construction. So typically in a multifamily or apartment community, you have a majority of your unit mix is 1 bedrooms and it's surface parking. On our project, the majority of the project is 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms, pretty much split evenly on this particular project. And everything comes with a 2-car direct access garage for privacy and security, as well as a 22-foot driveway apron. So everybody can park 4 to 1, and it's going to live and feel like a single family home or townhome in this particular case, with all the benefits of rental, not paying property taxes individually as the renter, no snow removal to deal with, no landscaping. As the landlord, we take on all those responsibilities. And so this is, although a rental, it's going to be something entirely different when compared to some of the other multifamily communities that exist in Cottage Grove. And I think it's a wonderful addition because our target demographic is people looking to save to buy a house eventually and to send their kids to school in Cottage Grove that can't do that right now for various reasons, whether that be interest rates, lack of supply, lack of entry-level homes, new construction, et cetera. And so we look at this as a stepping stone for somebody that can rent today that hopefully will buy tomorrow to be a member of the community. And so I want to make that clear because it's a very clear target demographic that we're after, and it's a different type of renter. By nature, with the units being larger, they range from 1,450 square feet up to 1,600 square feet. You're going to just get a different person, right? You're going to get more occupants, more kids, et cetera. And so that's something I wanted to clarify. As far as the architectural intent of the project, if you have toured Heyday Sun Prairie, it's more of a modern farmhouse feel. We've tried to implement that here as well. So a lot of vertical board and batten and horizontal siding as well. As I previously discussed, on the 4 buildings fronting BB, we have no problem incorporating stone in the base of the buildings to enhance that entrance into the village. But both communities, Heyday Sun Prairie and Heyday Oak Creek that were referenced earlier in the public comments, you can see actual pictures of the community. Both communities on our websites at heydaysp.com and heydayoc.com. And they've been wonderful additions to those communities. And I think Heyday Cottage Grove will be the same here. Back in March, we've listened. We've reduced density. We've run an internal traffic study with Snyder Associates The result of that is, as Strand said, we are going to build the 2 left-hand turn lanes into the community that will reduce the traffic and vehicles slowing down on BB and bus. And as far as the utility lines up front, we are relocating one, which might result in us burying them all. While it can't be required of us, as it was stated, we are certainly going to do everything that we can to try to bury those lines to improve, the visual aspect of this community. So we appreciate the opportunity to present, and we'll answer any other questions. But we have taken a lot of time in consideration on the comments that were provided previously, and we have since that time worked with the school to the north to create connectivity to those schools. Another comment that was brought up in March was just safety, pedestrian safety, walking on the 10-foot multi-use paths that we will build along bus and BB, and creating connectivity to the schools internally from our community, since we have a network of sidewalks. We're in coordination with them to coordinate grading and connectivity to their sidewalk and pay for that and build that. So there is a pathway, whether you come from Shady Grove or our community, to the schools without having to traverse BB or bus if you don't want to do that. Additionally, Strand spoke to the fact that we will be putting in a pedestrian crossing that'll help the residents of Shady Grove cross BB and get to the schools. That was another comment back in March. So I think I've touched on all of them, but the majority of those comments we've listened, we've heard, and we've stepped back and we've made thoughtful changes to the site plan. So we're excited to be here, and we'll answer any other questions.
Any questions from commission members? Alex?
What was the rent price points?
The rents in the community, they range from $2,400 up to $2,700.
I think this is the problem with the rental market in Cottage Grove. It's, the statement that it's a stepping stone. There's no room for savings for down payment. That's the issue. And I don't buy that statement at all. That doesn't mean the project's, a good project or not. It's just not a selling point that resonates with me. I mean, these are more the mortgages where people are paying right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think I totally hear what you're saying, and I think we agree with you. If we were able to build these things for cheaper, we would be able to rent them for cheaper. It's just a very tough economic environment in terms of the cost to get something like this done, and be able to get the requisite returns that the capital markets require for funding deals like this.
Yeah, I mean, every project that comes through here, there's 2 core issues. It's the cost of construction, and then the rent of the dirt afterwards. It's the tax rate in Cottage Grove is going to continue to go up. So you're going to have price increases year 1, year 2, because of the other issues going on in Cottage Grove right now.
I mean, just as a point, what we've tried to do to try to combat that, because we really do want to make these attainable as much as we can. I would agree with you that it's not necessarily affordable, but we've tried to make these units as efficient as possible, and by doing so, taking out any extra square footage that we could take out of these units that would allow them still to have everything that everybody needs to live in a very comfortable single-family home type environment. But by shrinking these units down to a size that's smaller than what we have at either one of our single-story projects for comparable 2- and 3-bedroom units, we are able to rent these for less than we are able to rent our 2- and 3-bedroom units in the single-story product.
Yeah, but I guess you reduce the density, so that also consolidates the cost too, right? So you're still paying full rate taxes on the square footage of the land. At 164 units, it was spread out across 164 units, and now it's spread out across 114. So there's gives and takes and all that. To touch on you mentioned the snow removal. Does that include the driveway aprons and everything, or what's included as part of that? I'm just thinking because it's a snow day today, and
yeah, 100% of all the hard surfaces across the entire project are taken care of by the management company.
Okay. And then trash, how is that one? Is that coming through individual properties are going to have their own cans and bins, or is there a central collection on that? I think we talked about that last year, but I can't.
It'll be just like a single family home. You'll have, what we have at both of our other communities is the large recycling bin and large trash bin that gets stored in the garage and rolled out on trash day and picked up.
And there's, in the renderings, I'm gonna look at the renderings. Did you show those on the garage? There's a room? 21 foot across, it's close, yeah. Okay. And then the utilities were in the garage too, right? That was this project, again, it was a year ago. There was utilities in the garage, they were just sort of loosey-goosey, and I think you enclosed them at this point because of the weather and the elements?
Yeah, so when you say utilities, are you?
Hot water
can you be-
heater,
Yeah.
heater, and I think the furnace, I think even as well, was in the garage.
Correct. So if you can see on what I'm sharing right now, we intentionally locate those off of the garage so that they're accessible from our maintenance staff. This is where the vast majority of maintenance occurs in these rental units, is with the utilities for changing filters and or something going wrong. So we intentionally make those accessible off the garage so that maintenance staff doesn't have to enter the unit in order to service these.
So that's responsibility of that's your responsibility, okay. Great, because it's a rental,
That's-
okay, yeah.
Correct.
That's what I got for right now.
Okay. Aaron, emergency services has seen this and
Yes.
turn radius and everything for the large trucks and all that.
Yeah, so the main comment from Chief Lang at EMS was just about the addressing and making sure the addresses were visible on the rear. The main comment from Chief Archibald at the fire department was just wanted to make sure there was no parking on the streets other than the designated parking spots, just so they could get the equipment through. And that was Hayday's intention, to not allow street parking, essentially.
I have a question. Are the residents allowed to park whatever they want, so to speak, in their driveway?
The restrictions in the lease, so you can't park a boat or an RV or, change your oil in the driveway. There's very specific restrictions.
Thank you.
I have a question. What's the total value of the project when it's done? What's going to hit the tax roll, do you think?
That's a great question. I guess I would say it's probably somewhere in the $40 million range.
All right, thank you.
Does fire and EMS in particular, I know there's been discussions, they have no concerns, no need for any sort of study to make sure that they're going to be able to handle the additional flow, presumably more calls, more area to patrol.
I mean, the comments they raised to me were the addressing and the parking and the circulation through the site.
Believe it or not, I came up with a couple other questions.
All right, Heidi.
There's like a leasing office or something along those lines, and that's where the group mail and such is located.
Leasing structure is just off a fundamental way, and it consists of a leasing office, a mail pavilion that sits in the middle that's covered from the elements, and on the backside is the maintenance office. And then just north of that will be a maintenance facility, a flex space for attic stock, as we call it. So, additional flooring, lights, UTV, golf cart for giving tours.
Great, thank you.
And you said the mail facility, is that boxes for all the residents, or is that a spot for packages, or both?
That's boxes for all the residents that'll be coordinated with the local United States Post Office, just like we did at Sun Prairie. And then packages, whether that's Amazon, FedEx, et cetera, they get delivered directly to the doors.
Okay.
Yeah, so what I have up right now is the floor plan of the leasing center. This front area, which kind of faces fundamental when you come in, is our leasing office, some flex space and a bathroom and a utility closet. The roof goes over this entire structure, and so we have our mail cluster here centralized and protected from the elements with parking, obviously, so people can stop in and grab their mail. And then the back area is a maintenance office for our maintenance tech, a bathroom, place for laundry for miscellaneous stuff back there, and a slop sink, as well as place to store the UTV and the golf cart, which we usually keep on these campuses as well.
Thank you. My other question is about the access to the property that's currently owned by the Friends of the Library. And talking about that this access would be allowable in the future. If the Friends of the Library were not owners of that property in the future, would the same type of access rights still apply?
I mean, as the condition is written, it applies to the library. 'Cause that was the only site that was envisioned back at the time. Maybe Rick can weigh in about kind of demanding private access to one site from another private site if it is sold. That can get a little tricky.
Yeah, I guess just off the cuff, I'd be a little concerned about requiring sort of like the private access for a private property owner. It's just getting towards a gray area.
But doesn't that create an island that potentially, if they don't work out an agreement, can never be developed?
There's access to that lot from the cul-de-sac. The conditions related to the library refer a second
Right.
access further up on the private street.
Okay.
So the lot will have access from
Right.
fundamental, but just
Yeah,
off the
it'll be able to
cul-de-sac.
have a driveway access off that bulb. It just wouldn't have a second access, I think.
Okay.
That's what we're
All right,
talking
thank
about.
Another question, where's the commercial part of this? And
So
what is that proposed to be?
Yeah, so the commercial lot is down here. It's part of the requirement of the zoning that there be a certain amount of commercial on this. We're not commercial developers, but we've left a sufficient space and put in a kind of footprint of what a building could look like here and parking. But this will not be developed by us. We would look to sell this parcel to someone who would be interested in developing this as a commercial parcel.
Okay, thank you.
And as a side, we've already had someone interested in this, so.
I personally would rather see the commercial develop first, and then we add housing. And to Alex's point, I'm struggling that this is a stepping stone between rent and purchase, and the rental prices are so high that how does a family of four save any money to get to the point where they can buy a home in the village of Cottage Grove? I'm not sure that would ever happen. If they can afford $2,400 a month in rent, that goes a long ways towards a mortgage. Why wouldn't they be buying a home instead of renting this, right? We don't want something that sits there empty. We don't want something that turns into an eyesore. And really the reality is we need more business to help support what we've already got going on around us.
Any other questions from commission? Otherwise, this is discuss and consider.
I have a question.
Okay, Fred?
There was some discussion about a fence around the retention pond. So right now, we don't require that. So what happens if we approve this and then a year from now, we start requiring fences?
So we wouldn't be able to make it a retroactive requirement. It would need to be something that we do proactively or prospectively, I mean. So if the development comes in, like we can't make everybody that has a private stormwater pond install a fence after the fact. So it would have to be something that the village does from whenever the requirement comes into place to the future.
So, so you literally could have a business development come in and they're gonna need a fence around their retention pond, but the residential development will not. And in theory, they could be virtually next to each other.
If that were a requirement that were imposed by the village, like if that were put into ordinance that every stormwater pond needs fencing, then yes, future developments would have that as a requirement.
Okay.
I don't think the commercial site would have its own separate stormwater, though. That's
Yeah. And the one that's next to that commercial site, is that the dry basin? Yes.
Yeah, I'm assuming this is all, and Mike, you're here, this is all sized, assuming that that commercial lot comes in to the, that's all part of the stormwater. So the stormwater management for that commercial lot is already baked into what you see here today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they wouldn't need a separate basin or anything.
I would make motion to approve the request from CR DevCo DBA Heyday for approval of a precise implementation plan of the 114-unit townhouse project on the parcels listed in the agenda, located at the northeast corner of West Cottage Grove Road and Bus Road with the staff and strand conditions.
Is there a second? I'll second it just to keep this thing going. Yeah, we'll have to do a roll call on this.
Can I ask a question? Can we ask that they do the commercial first or in conjunction with the entire development?
So I guess
They
just
indicate they've got someone already interested.
yeah, just I guess a summary of where we're at in this process. So because this is a PUD, this is the second step of the zoning.
Yeah.
So step one was approving the planned unit development, which was basically putting the zoning district over the entire piece of property. So now that they're coming back with the precise implementation plan, because the zoning ordinance is already adopted, the use has already been approved at this site. So essentially the precise implementation plan is to see, is the project consistent with what was approved previously, so last year by the village board to establish that zoning district. So it's, the consideration tonight isn't the use of the property itself, it's, is this compliant with village ordinances? Does it comply with the planned unit development zoning ordinance or district that was placed over the property? So, you know, you can establish conditions of approval of the use, but prohibiting the use wouldn't be allowable at this stage just because the zoning already allows for the use as is.
Okay, it's a no vote for me then.
And just to add on to Rick's comments, and although not part of the scope of the approval, from a tax perspective, this development's outside of a TIF district, and you know, they had mentioned a $40 million value. That's for the residential. That commercial project would probably be a couple $1 million. And if the developers could speak to it if they want to, but I assume they're not looking to spend $40 million if they can't fill these units.
I forgot my own suggestion in my motion. If it
I was
would be
wondering
all
about
right,
that. I was
if I
gonna
could
ask
amend my motion to add another condition of the some kind of stone exterior incorporated on the Cottage Grove Road corridor units.
And I'll second that. All right, roll call, Lisa, please, unless there's any other discussion.
Allen,
No.
Williams,
Aye.
Nay.
Schultz,
Aye.
Justison,
No.
Sale,
No.
Murphy,
Aye.
3 aye, 4 no.
Motion fails. All right. Next up, then, we have the approval of a certified survey map. I'm not sure if we even need to cover that since
Well, I think,
it's still going to
If-
go to the board.
yes, so the CSM is separate from the use, right? Because
Yeah.
you're just splitting off the parcels.
Yeah.
So I think it's still appropriate to consider it, just,
Yep.
it's a separate, the CSM is more straightforward where you're not considering the uses, it's just,
Yeah.
you're splitting the lots.
I have a question, though. There's some reference in the previous conditions about the CSM. So how does that get handled when, because don't they have to vacate some access or something?
Well, those conditions would apply to this vote, not to the last one.
Yeah, those are conditions specific to the CSM. So the staff conditions are specified as only to the CSM. So if the CSM is approved with the staff conditions, they would have to still vacate Fundamental Way.
Okay.
So is the splitting of the parcel to get the commercial part off? Did I miss that in the beginning? Is that,
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And there are conditions on this portion, or no?
Yeah, there are.
Then I would make a motion to approve the request from CR DevCo for approval of certified survey map to split the parcel listed into 2 lots and 1 outlot with conditions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, then. Any other discussion? Having heard none, do we need to do a roll call on this one, too? We'll do no. Yeah.
Williams,
Aye.
Allen,
Nay.
Schultz,
Aye.
Brinkmeyer,
Nay.
that was a nay.
Yep, no. You broke up, Don.
Sale,
No.
Justison,
Aye.
and Murphy.
Aye.
So it is 4 aye, 3 no.
All right, motion carries then. Next, then, we move to discuss and consider a request from the Village of Cottage Grove Police Department for the approval of a site plan for a new 27,000-plus square foot police station on parcels 711-620-7411, located on the northeast corner of Progress Road and Bonnie. I'm not sure who wants to start.
I can,
Mike, you want
I
to?
can start, yeah. I'll share my screen, I'll give you an overview. So, okay, Sharon here. Yes, thank you, yes, we are looking for a site plan approval for the new Cottage Grove Police Station. So as mentioned, the property is just west of the MSB building. It's formerly 2 pieces of property that since recently has been joined with the MSB building in a recent CSM. The building is going to be 27,800 square feet. It's a 1-story building that kind of covers a lot. Taking a look at the site plan of the building. So here is the footprint of the new proposed building that we have here. We have a parking lot for the public of 12 spaces that enters off of Bonnie Road to the front. We have a few spaces in the back that are used mostly for kind of semi-private parking for other facilities to come to the building. And then we have a parking lot towards the back, which is a secure parking lot. This parking lot in the back is 31 spaces. It's actually surrounded with a security gate that wraps around the entire property here and terminates over at the staff entry. It has a movable gate on 2 different locations, one to the east heading to the back of the MSB building, and the other one that enters out to the west, which actually will be the primary drive for the police that are coming out of either the parking lot here or the indoor parking spaces for police vehicles. The stormwater for the site is going to be handled in 2 different locations. There's a basin that's over here to the west of the property, and a smaller basin that's handled amongst the parking lot in the back. Both of these are kind of dry ponds, so that means that they will fill up on a rain event, but eventually go into the storm and then head back towards the property that's just north of the MSB building. On site, we have a trash enclosure that's outside of the secure gate. And then we also have an enclosure for the generator that's closer to the building over here. But we also incorporated some masonry wall that comes through here, giving this unprogrammed green space a little bit of a backdrop. Along Bonnie Drive, we were creating a couple of areas. We're driving a main lot or a main sidewalk that comes up to the building. And we also have a little bit of a pavement area here as a breakout space for the community room inside. Looking at the landscaping plan, primarily we have landscaping that is nestled up against the building. But some of the bigger features here is that we are creating, and part of the planning is we left a larger open lawn space that splits between the MSB building and the new proposed police station. We are lining that with some additional landscaping that's really helped to kind of shield or kind of soften the backside of the municipal building. And another feature is we're creating a swath of native prairie grass that runs along the outside here to really kind of create that space between the sidewalk and the building. And the landscaping is all kind of generally created to help, create a nice entry, a nice walk for people to head up to the building. As the chief has mentioned previously in the past, the building is really not meant to be a place where they are coming for just bad things, but they want people to engage the site and engage the community room as well. Looking at the site photometrics, obviously a little bit hard to see, but primarily our site lighting will happen at each of the parking areas and the drives through here, and we'll have some site parking or site lighting towards the front of the building on the public parking areas. The building will be lit somewhat along the front. There will be some signage that's lit, and we have some faced lighting that's on the face of the kind of their front calling card, so to speak. And then we'll have some exterior lighting that are at all the exits, and that's mostly for egress. Some additional path lighting will lead up and around some of these paths that come around and circulate around the building itself. Looking at the elevations. So primarily the building consists of split face CMU. We have brick and we have some metal panel. So both of those kind of highlight both Bonnie Street and on Progress Drive. And towards the back of the building, we try to cut costs a little bit more. We have a little bit more split face on here, and then we have some metal panel as well. I'm going to actually go to this view here. So this is a better view. So again, facing this street, we have mostly brick and masonry. We do have a large, what we had kind of deemed a candy cane type of effect. So what this is it kind of creates a calling card and an interesting lobby for the space, but it also creates a clear story towards the back, allowing additional light to kind of filter into the building. The rooftop mechanicals that are up here are being shielded by a screen wall on either side, so that it helps kind of hide anything that we have on top. We are proposing to have solar panels up here. This particular image does not show all of them, as they extend over here as well, but solar panels will be pretty minimal. They're not as tall as they show here. They're actually in a flatter position at that point. Going back to some of our exterior signage that we have here, a little bit hard to see, but on our front, we are looking at a lighted signage that comes across the front here. And then along Bonnie Road, we have some additional signage for notification. And then on the backside, we have a little bit of an emblem at this location. Currently, we are proposing in the site plan to have 2 monumental, so to speak, signs, one at this location and one at this entry for the public. And there'll be both kind of notification of the police station and actually describing what type of parking is where. So I think, yeah, I think that's kind of all we have to present right now. We have open for any questions that you may have. We also have Dylan from JT Engineering, civil engineer here, that can help answer any of these questions as well.
All right, thanks, Mike. Aaron, you want to walk through?
Yeah, we didn't have a ton of conditions for this since kind of been involved with this so long, as has Kyla with Public Works, kind of looking at some of the engineering aspects of it. First condition would just be a reminder about getting sign permits for all the signage. Number 2, looking for bike racks near the front entry. I think that was part of the cost estimate, but just not on the plans, I don't think. Then the third one, just verifying the numbers of each of the plants. The amount of landscaping they're showing certainly appears to be adequate. We just want to verify the different species numbers.
Anything from you, Josh?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have.
I haven't seen it.
We'll have Strand go through before the land disturbance permit, but Kyla's been kind of part of
Oh,
it.
okay.
My one question would be, how much capacity, like the community room, what's the capacity of it?
The capacity of the community room is about 100 people that we can do it. We've kind of, let me actually get to the floor plan here.
So the only thought that I have for that is parking, and I'm thinking you guys are assuming then it's just all on street or over at the existing municipal front parking area, probably, right? And then the connections are made there. Because there's not a lot of public parking, rightfully so, right? Because you need it, secured in the back, right, Chief?
That is correct, and from previous feedback, there was a desire not to have a lot of parking on the site itself. They wanted more of the green space availability, so then we made the adjustments and modifications.
Do you know how many spaces are available on the adjacent building?
I have a feeling people would park on the street before they drive over there.
Yeah. We have done, and unfortunately I don't have it up right now, but we had done that, some kind of calculating how many stalls that we can get out front through here. And I think we can get an approximation of about 12 to 13 along this side. And because Progress Drive is a wider street, we could have additional parking along here. So I think that we could probably get, roughly 20 cars that are kind of lined up along the streets, and creating a access path from using some of the overflow parking lot at the MSB.
And then you have Bonnie as well, and further up.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's something big going on, people park wherever they're going to park on either of those roads and walk.
It looks like the municipal service building, at least around the public access side of it, on the front and the side, there's roughly 30 spots. Yeah, so I mean, there's a handful of spots there. And you're right, I mean, the street is plenty wide to park on both sides there along that corridor. I just wanted to point it out that there will have to be all of that parking throughout, which is fine.
So to put that in perspective a little bit, I think the front lot has 10 plus the ADA spot. Is that about
Of
right?
this
Just
current
I
plan?
don't want to make sure I have the right numbers. So there's 10 plus the handicap spot. So just the people in this room right now, we couldn't handle this meeting with that parking spot. Yeah, we're on the street. Includes our guests.
We
So there's-
anticipated these
Yeah.
these comments, Alex, but
Yeah.
because the board's been more involved in the process leading up to this, we've had like several meetings where the boards discussed parking and they wanted it reduced. So
there's an ordinance for that?
the board asked for it to be reduced.
Yeah.
It's meeting, I believe it meets minimum parking
Well, I
requirements.
think it's a cost savings. I think because the green space was initially laid out, I think originally as lots. So I was sort of looking at this being a municipal project, a little bit different. I got different questions on this. I mean, is the solar panels a go, or is that on the table still? Is that happening?
It's an option.
That's not right. So is it happening?
It's going to be an option in the bid package.
So we don't know if it's happening. So from a cost savings measure, it's not worth it. Like, it just isn't. Not in Wisconsin. Never is, never will be. And we seen it from the school district when they came in and did their review. 25-year payback, and you got to replace all the components within 15 years. It's just not worth it. So, $1 million investment, the parking lot got cut. I don't know, did anything else get adjusted from those listening sessions that the public had? I was looking at the floor plan. I didn't notice anything else adjusted. So the only thing we got was less parking and an option maybe of solar. Do we have anything?
The sustainability, the
geothermal.
Public Works and Sustainability Committee was reviewing options for the building, and that's being forwarded to the board. I believe from the initial proposal, about 15,000 plus square feet has been reduced from the.
That was still part of the
facility.
original, yeah, but from those listening sessions, that was part of those conversations.
Right. I mean, what we know now is that, given current growth projections, this facility that we haven't built yet would likely need an addition in the next 10 to 15 years. So reducing the scope just condenses that time frame.
There's 2 additions shown on the plan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do they impact future parking needs, I guess? I mean, I don't know, I just think, it seems like that might be something that you
There's
wanna-
also future parking along the northern edge that's
Oh, I didn't
not
see-
proposed to get built now.
Oh, okay.
And
Is that noted on the,
It's kind of dashed in as
Okay.
future parking on the site plan.
It's a little hard
And one of those future addition areas would be part of the garage, so that would be
Okay.
more parking for the squad cars.
All right.
That's it, too.
The future growth is also
I
contingent.
understand the solar.
Go ahead.
Oops,
Go ahead, Troy.
sorry, go ahead, Fred.
No, you go.
I'm sorry. I guess I understand the solar is an option. What is the lifespan of solar? Is it 15 years?
It should be 25. It's usually what the panels are guaranteed for.
The
The
school
Okay.
district said the
And what
inverter
kind of-
failed at 15 years. That's where the big price was. If they had a 15-year lifespan on the inverter and 25 was the payback on the panels.
Wow.
So, and the inverter was
And-
significant.
And what kind of maintenance is involved with that? I assume that over that 15, 25-year lifespan that it's going to cost money to maintain these things.
Yeah, I don't know that it's worth going over each line item with the issue, but I get your point that there's. Yeah.
And once they expire, what do we do then?
Landfill.
well, that's not,
I mean, it's going to get a really expensive endeavor.
that exceeds our scope.
I guess I'm struggling. Yeah, I'm struggling with a couple things here. I'm struggling with, I guess I should say, I understand the need for a police station, absolutely. I don't understand why this has to look attractive, like it's not just a tin shed that people pull up to and says police station. I don't think we need something to spend the money to make it look pretty. I think it needs to serve a function and a function only. I would venture to say you could cut millions of dollars off of this by turning this into looking like a tin shed than to make it look like a beautiful police station that's attractive for people to come and visit. Secondly, why are we building it where it's at? Why aren't we building it where the police calls are, down by the multifamily housing where we have the lot in Commerce Court, or Commerce Parkway, I should say?
That lot's not big enough, Troy. Not even close.
Okay. Because I thought that lot was a couple acres.
No, it's not even. It's an acre and a half, I think, if I remember right.
Okay. But engineering wise, if you made this thing and just made it look ugly, are we talking millions of dollars difference?
Yeah. I don't know if that's within the scope of the Plan Commission, Troy.
Well, I think we need to think about it because our taxes are going up outrageously. I understand we're going to pay this through our TID district, which is closing, but those funds could be used to other things for the village. We're getting to the point where people aren't going to be able to afford to live here anymore. And that's a concern because once people start moving, home values go down, but we're already committed to all these financial outlays. This is crazy that we have something that looks this pretty. Then you could get by with something that costs $12 million instead of $22 million.
Is there an option to go up? Or like it's this way? Can you minimize things by building a second floor? Is that not feasible?
I think that adds more cost than having it at one level. I'm not an engineer, but Josh?
For like future addition, like.
I think the architect could speak to that probably better than I
Yeah.
can.
Mike could probably say.
But you're gonna have elevators, and
Yeah,
I'm assuming
exactly.
you got a chief over here that doesn't want to be going up and down stairs with certain things either, so.
Well, I have a question related specifically to what's before us. Has the fire chief seen this? Because I don't see how a fire truck's turning around, so they're going to back out. There's only one way in to the front of the building.
I can speak to that if you'd like.
Yes, please.
We did meet with the chief and the assistant chief a few months ago before we got heavily into DDs, and we reviewed the site plan here. So we have the option, especially to fight this building basically on all four sides. So they actually had no issues with what we did. One thing that we did discuss was about where the FDC connection was going to be. Our water room is right here. And basically they were calculating out their hoses, and their request was to put a fire department connection kind of close to the street. It's a yard connection, which is done all the time. So that was the major thing we talked about. And otherwise, coming out of that meeting, they were happy with the overall layout.
Thank you.
Any other questions, commission members?
To Troy's point, we're starting to build some really nice things, which is nice. We need to maintain these things too. I walked I got a good tour of the current police station. I highly recommend it if you have time. And I don't think it's being maintained as good as it could be to provide that environment for our staff to perform at their highest. So this is really nice, and I just really recommend you hold the rope tight and keep it clean, keep it neat, and keep it running. So that's my resident statement there.
Okay.
I would make a motion then to approve the request from the Village of Cottage Grove Police Department for approval of a site plan for a new 27,789 square foot police station on the parcel listed and located at the northeast corner of Progress Drive and Bonnie Road as presented.
Second.
With, yeah, as presented, that means with
Sorry,
conditions.
Yes, there you go.
Okay.
Sorry.
We have a motion and second then.
With
Any other discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Anybody abstain? Motion carries. All right, next then we have discuss a potential zoning amendment to permit beekeeping in single-family residence. Aaron had
So
a
it's
nice,
kind of the next step from the conversation we started last time, doing a quick review of what other municipalities around us are doing. So a lot of that is listed in the staff report. They're not all exactly the same, but they do all have certain characteristics that are similar, limiting the number of hives on a site, limiting the size of the hives, limiting setbacks. There's a requirement to provide water, because if you don't, the bees will go looking elsewhere for it, people's pools and things like that. Removable frames as part of the hives, and then a flyway barrier, which is basically a fence or line of shrubs or something that makes the bees fly up before they leave the property, so they're not going at face level into someone else's property. So if there is a desire to keep moving forward with this, those would be the characteristics we'd be looking at to put into an ordinance.
Is our bee person here today? No? No, okay.
Thanks, Erin, for gathering the information. My husband is allergic to bees, and we just learned from his doctor it's the type of allergy that gets worse as you age. So I would like to be able to provide a way for people to do this, but safely and considering their neighbors. I think, being 3 feet from any property line, I mean, thinking about my husband just out mowing the lawn and being 3 feet from, I think bees are kind of territorial around their hives from what I've learned. So I think, I wouldn't want any hives to be, I'm edging more toward like the Wanakee sort of distance if we do move ahead with this.
You're saying 20?
I am also allergic to bee stings.
Don, yeah.
I'm also allergic to bee stings, so I certainly would not want my neighbors to have bees as well.
What's the standard lot width? It's like 20 feet. Is that, if the standard lot's 40 feet, does that put it in their patio? Like 20 is, I agree with you. I don't do bees. I don't do bees. But 3 seems short. 20 maybe too far.
There's a standard width, it's probably 80-ish.
80?
If you take 20 off each side, you still have 40 in the middle.
Yeah,
Kind of, if
okay.
it's behind your house,
Yeah.
it's probably fine.
Okay. And no license, right? We're not dealing with more paperwork and bothering you with other things. Just, we have the ordinance. If someone complains, then we can leverage the ordinance, right?
There are places that have that. That was not part of what
You're not right.
I thought we had been discussing. So.
But yeah, no, there was one of the I think Madison, license required, right? We're not, I'm not, you don't need more burden of paperwork for $20.
I don't think so.
Good. Okay, 20 feet.
I had a neighbor across the street that had a beehive 8 feet in the air on a 4x4 pole, and they never had an issue with anything. I bought honey from them. That's why I know they. So, I understand folks that are allergic to bees, but frankly, if you leave them alone, they leave you alone. your chances of getting stung by a bee that is making a nest in your home is more likely.
I have a question. What is a constant source of fresh water? How are we to interpret that? I mean, are you talking a 55-gallon drum that 99% of the time is going to have water in it, or are you talking about you got to have plumbed water to the...
I don't think plumbed. I think they mean change it out every day so it's not getting gross and the bees don't go somewhere else.
Okay. Well, I mean...
I was hoping the bee person was here. So I was hoping the bee person was here so they could...
Yeah.
I think you've got those bees confused with like brown bees that are
Yeah.
not making honey.
Yeah.
That will eat any dead animal in your yard.
I think if you're keeping
I
bees,
guess
you're
why-
gonna,
Yeah, if you're keeping bees, you're offering them.
Why is that a requirement? Constant source of water.
Okay.
I mean, we had brown bees in our yard because a gopher dug a hole.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
can't hear him.
Had 100 stings.
Yeah.
Met some gasoline and that was the end of them. But they weren't making honey.
Yeah, that,
No.
the part of this meeting is actually not available for the public to comment at this point, so, but appreciate the comments about the bees. Other questions from commission members, comments?
Why do we need to have a constant water source?
Aaron answered that
Understanding
before.
is
but-
if you're not providing one next to your hives, then they will go looking for it elsewhere, potentially in people's pools or bird baths or
Yeah.
dog dishes. So it's part of keeping them on your property, basically.
Okay, thank you.
So is
So I'm
the,
gonna
go ahead.
I'm gonna bother Heidi because she started talking first. So the Village of Wanakee run is the one you were leveraging. Which of those bullet points can you just? I don't think we want to highlight all of them. I don't know that we want a public hearing every time. So there, I'll just read through it and we can agree or whatever. So the first bullet, they just list the ordinance number. The second bullet is no hive should be less than 20 feet from property boundary. That's what you like that one.
Yep.
And then if hive is less than 50 feet from a property boundary, a flyaway barrier, not really sure what that is, but that sounds fine.
Fence or hedge or something that would make them.
Make them go up and over, okay. There shall be a constant supply of fresh water. Shall comply with Wisconsin state statutes. This one, conditional use permit and public hearing required. I would recommend not doing that, but I'll ask you
Right,
to
yeah, I think
comment.
that's one we could leave off.
Okay, and then hives shall be kept in a rear yard only. I think that's a thumbs up
Yeah,
too.
I
Okay.
think so.
Yeah, I'm in alignment with, I'd be in alignment with Wanakee then as well.
I guess my other thought on another one that I thought we should consider adding is the however many per how big your lot is. I don't know if we wanted to add that in, because like chickens, we do limit how many chickens you can have. So this is like how many hives per,
So the city of Stoughton has
Yeah, the
that? No
Stoughton
more than
has
2
that.
hives on a half acre, 4 on a blah, blah, blah. Pull those in. That's a good idea.
You want to calibrate it to the size, not just a raw number. Like some of these, they just say it's 2 or it's 4. It's
What?
oh, like the size of your lot, rather than just saying you can only have 2. Like Middleton has, you can have 6 per lot, regardless of your lot size. Yeah, we could do that too.
Oh.
I'd be fine with that. Then we don't have to cross-check how big your lot is or something.
Keep it simple. Okay.
Aaron, maybe this is just something we can work out, but just want to make sure we define hive, so it's just clear on what that is. I mean, I don't think we want to be out there counting bees.
most of these have a list of definitions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that,
I think
is that enough to go on, Aaron?
Yeah.
I think so, unless there's other suggestions.
Okay. Then we will move next to open a public hearing on the opportunity to provide input on proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance related to library program requirements. So we've talked about this as a commission a couple times already. This is the next step of that process of having a public hearing on that. So with that, anybody in the room or in the Zoom would like to comment on this? Again, we ask you share your name, your address, your municipality, and hold your comments no more than 3 minutes in case we have a lot of folks who like to speak. Yeah, Mark. I've already got 2 forms up here for you.
It's short.
Press, yeah. Yep.
So I looked at the comparisons that were done. I want to state that I'm not for a library, but I'm for library services. But when I state this, I wanted to look at all the facts and look at the parking. When I ran the math, it came out to 30 parking spots for the one for every 400 square feet. That was the math that I ran when I compared it to all the local communities around us that were actually used as suggestions on the library FAQ board, which, yeah, that's it. So I just wanted to say when I did it, I came up with 30. If somebody comes up with something different, I heard 24. I don't know what it is, but my math was 30.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Anyone else from the public? All right. Then we'll close the public hearing portion of this and move that into the commission members. Questions, comments in regards to this, and that's discuss again, item 11, discuss and consider amending the zoning ordinance for library parking requirements.
It didn't say it in the minutes, and the minutes just say we discussed requirements, so I'd actually have to go back to the video, but I'm pretty sure we were not at 1 per 250. That, you know, again, it appears to be tailoring to a space rather than a need, and we also know that there's no adjacent parking available to consider into this. You know, I think we probably need to be somewhere to 1 per 350 or 400, maybe, or I'm probably doing the math upside down. 1 for 250 is where we're at right now. We did talk about adjusting that up a little bit, but I'm pretty sure we were not at 250. I'd have to find the notes.
I don't think we had a real consensus at the last meeting. In the staff report, I did suggest another potential way of looking at it. You could apply the 1 to 250 to the net square footage as opposed to the gross square footage. So taking out mechanicals and circulation, things like that, and basing it on, you know, the more useful space of the library.
I mean, the thing is, it's the similar. I mean, the police station is the same conversation, right? So you couldn't even hold this meeting, you know, with the amount of people we had earlier. And if there's going to be programs, and like I said, we have this giant parking lot here. You drive past it, most of the time it's staff, you know, maybe a few visitors, so it's fine most of the time. But then you have meetings like for purpose issues, and that's why we have that parking to accommodate it. Even when we do voting day, we block off the street. I'm not sure why we do that, honestly. I mean, we should be making voting accessible and easy for everyone, and we said you can't park nearby. Safety issues aside, I mean, get a crossing guard or something. I don't know. So you know, we're just setting them up for a failure, especially with no additional, you know, no adjacent parking. So the 1 to 25, 250 isn't going to work.
Do you have a recommendation then?
I did. Let me run my numbers again. Hold on.
Again, this is setting a minimum. When somebody comes in there with actual plans, they may come up with a different number based on the types of activities and things of that nature that you want to have. This is just for the ordinance itself.
They're going to build to the minimum. No one, they're not going to put it in 1,000 parking spaces because they can, right? We're not doing it at the police station. We're doing it to save money, right? Let me figure my number out. Let me see if I can figure it.
So why can't we wait until we have the results of the referendum?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to table until results of a referendum. If the results are positive, we talk about it. If the results are negative, this goes away forever.
Yeah,
We're wasting everybody's time here until that referendum passes.
So just to clarify the procedures here, so this is a formal request from the village board to do the zoning amendment. And because it's an application or a request from the village board, there's a 60-day time frame for the plan commission to provide a recommendation. If they don't provide a recommendation within that time, it still goes to the village board. So that's
But if we defeat it, it still goes to the village board. So
correct. That's the recommendation that the plan commission is making to the village board.
Well,
The election is less than 60 days away.
yeah, but they made this before, so.
This is table. We picked it up off the table.
What a waste.
Yeah, so that could be your official recommendation to the village board. It's still gonna go to the village board, but that your recommendation would be to table consideration until after the referendum.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather make a recommendation for 1 to 400.
That's another
Well,
option
I
too.
think, I mean, that puts you at, maybe,
30.
yeah.
I can support that.
Okay, so is that a motion then, Alex?
Hang on. We're at 11?
We're at 11.
Item 11, I want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the library parking zoning ordinance update of a ratio of 1 to 400. Is that right? Did I do that right, Rick?
Yeah, that would, that's good.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second then. Any other discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Next then, we have future agenda items.
Probably more at the bees. I think Dolphin Swim Academy is looking at a potential addition that I think could be here as soon as next month. The final plat for Kennedy Hills, the ETJ subdivision. We did the preliminary plat a few months ago. They're bringing that back. And various other things floating out there that we're not quite sure when they're coming in yet, so.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and second to adjourn, non-debatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks,
Aye.
everybody. Have a good rest of your week.